Oh, okay. I was like, did I hear that wrong? Is he actually asking about like some kind of tech thing I've never heard of?
What is this
But yeah,
skateboard you're
I do.
talking about? Yeah. I only
Well,
skateboard with wheels, if that's what you're asking. Right.
I mean, that's a legitimate question, right? Because every word is reused in some sort of startup these days.
It really is. It's like the word retronym, like brick and mortar store or landline phone. I mean, it's like we have to be more specific in order to make sure we're actually talking about like things that have wheels, like what are behind you. The reason I was asking Emmy is that we're coming to the end of winter here, where I've been getting the boys out every day on skis and snowboards, and the question is how I can keep up the momentum, if you forgive the pun, while we move to more of an urban environment. And the one thing I was wondering about was, they're starting to get into bikes, moving on flatland.
Was that sound gone for you as well, Emmy?
Yeah, it was.
That was weird. You just cut out there for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Interesting. Problems here today on Jitsi.
But I think I got it. Yes, I recommend longboarding. It's super easy and fun, easy to learn. If they know how to snowboard, then it'll be a breeze.
Cool. Thank you.
If you want to spend more money, get them one wheels.
Wait, I'm an entrepreneur and you're asking if I want to spend more money?
Let me rephrase. If you want to also have fun with it and an excuse to spend more money, get one wheels. One wheels are awesome. Really expensive, but super awesome. I don't know if they ski or snowboard, but it's basically like snowboarding on the street.
I'll give you that in mind. One wheels.
It's harder though, a lot harder.
No.
It's scary.
It's not harder than longboarding.
Scary. Yes, it is.
Use yours. That one time I tried.
Yeah, he just no. It is dangerous. It's dangerous. So that keep that in mind. But every sport is. So it depends on how you raise your kids. I think if they know what they're doing, it's fine. But like I'm in a couple of one wheel groups. I used to have one, and on a very regular basis, you see people posting their injury pictures because you're going 25 miles on concrete, right? If you want to, it's dangerous.
Don't you have a permanent injury?
Well, not from that. I actually had a permanent injury from regular skateboards.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I did wipe out going 22 miles an hour once, but got super lucky. Nothing really majorly happened.
Yeah, Tony Hawk has it right. Throw yourself around, but wear the armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't even think I was wearing a helmet at that time either. Super stupid.
No, you were super lucky that wasn't worse.
Yeah, that was crazy. So there's like super entrepreneurial topic today, but that's fine. I guess we're talking about other people's company. Because technically, I think Future Motion, the maker of One Wheel, I would still consider them a startup. They started as a Kickstarter, actually. I followed them ever since, and they have something they call pushback, right? So it's a balancing wheel in the middle with the skateboard around, and it's pretty impressive. The technology is pretty impressive, works really well. But if you lean forward to go, right, and if you just keep leaning because you want to go faster, eventually they'll need to stop you before you dig into the ground, right? And that's like algorithmically done through pushing back. And if you just ignore that, it shuts off on you. And if you're going 22 miles an hour, you don't stop. So kind of crazy.
Does it actually lock up the brakes or just stop the forward momentum?
No, it does not gradually decrease. It just stops. It doesn't break either, but like if a wheel turns with however many RPMs when you're going 22, if the motor all of a sudden disengages, your momentum is still bigger.
Right.
Physics, right? We learn about that at some point, I think. Cool. So what's everyone working on?
Photoshopping your face.
New video
Usual.
coming out.
Yep.
Yeah, Ray, we started a YouTube channel about our adventures of moving off grid, and we're converting a school bus right now. So kind of a different entrepreneurial venture, but it's fun actually already. We already made our first sale on affiliate, Amazon affiliate, in a matter of 5 days. Pretty impressive, in my
Where
opinion.
was the link? In the YouTube description?
Yeah. Yep. I started, let's see. So last week, we released videos on Tuesday. So on Thursday last week, I added links. So we only have 3 videos up, right? And added all the links, and 4 days later, we got this first sale. We have, as of yesterday, we had 80 link clicks already, which I don't know, like I know those are small numbers, right? But I'm kind of blown away for, having 3 videos and only a couple hundred watches altogether, that 80 people clicked on the affiliate links. That doesn't pay me anything, of course, until it's a sale, but
the sale
1%.
was like super random too. It wasn't even something that we like focused on or talked about on the video.
Yeah, I'm just tagging all of the tools we use, and it was a Makita cordless vacuum. But pretty cool. So I got super inspired to do the channel. We talked about it for years with all of our adventures and stuff, right? But you always feel like there's just so much content out there, and you're just one of many. But then a friend of mine in Germany started a YouTube channel about a year ago, and by the turn of the year, it started really picking up for him. Now he had, in January, he had about 1,000 followers. I think he's at 1,500 now. And he's making with Amazon affiliate links, and now that he could turn on ads with over 1,000 followers and 4,000 watch hours, he's making already like $250 a month off of his channel. Which again, small potatoes, but in a year, right? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Justin?
Nothing. Had a real productive kick at the end of last week, and then over the weekend lost all my momentum. And it's just trying to get back into it here, just to meet the criteria for Wednesday for the cohort meeting. But very close on the cusp here of launching the original idea there, Optionator, and getting that out the door, so then I can focus on more exciting stuff, which it looks like Arky's in the exact same position. So maybe we'll compete against each other to launch first, and then move on to the exciting stuff.
Can we name our peer group?
Yeah, we should give it a nickname.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, please do.
I don't know what.
VCM at night.
The non-fungibles.
The non-fungibles. Yeah, I mean, that's not a lie.
Can't be duplicated. Isn't that
Yeah,
what it
well,
means? Something like
more or
that.
less, yeah. I
like it.
I have like a gazillion tabs open about NFTs and DAOs and all of that stuff I'm getting into, and I have the non-fungibles is a podcast.
So I saw you got the new cohort starting this week or next week.
Tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow.
Oh, nice. Ray, are you?
Yeah.
You're in it, I assume. Very cool. What time is the meeting?
5 p.m.
PM Eastern, yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Where are you in the world, Justin?
What's that?
Where are you in the world?
Tampa, Florida.
Okay. Yeah.
What about
okay.
you?
Yeah, I'm in Vermont.
Okay. And how did you learn about coStarting?
I think I was asking a question about like masterminds, and Sven reached back to me. I remember that right in terms of how we met Sven.
Yeah, in a different, I think in the microconf community, right?
That sounds right. Yeah.
And yeah, we talked about masterminds, and I was like, hey, I'm doing something kind of similar. You should join.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like,
That's exciting.
pretty much how I got everyone in the cohort so far.
It's working out well. So now you got what, 15 members total within 3 months, under 3 months.
Yeah, it could be a little bit more scalable, but then again, it's
Well,
all
yeah.
about really learning right now. So
Right, exactly. I mean, when it's a one-man show that's having to coordinate everything, it's hard to scale quickly. But in my opinion, the 15 people in under 3 months is pretty big when you're having to coordinate all of it every step of the way for all 3 teams.
yeah, I mean, I'm happy, right? Because it's again, it like with tomorrow's kickoff, actually, you'll see we're making adjustments. We're iterating on each cohort, each group, each meeting almost, with structure, with what we think would work best. So we had our intro meeting with everyone for cohort 3 now, and I think fairly quickly we were able to kind of come to a consensus of how we want to try it. Right, I proposed the videos and some good conversation about what we think would be most beneficial for the cohort members. One, for example, one feedback was, to my proposal, we pre-roll the videos, was that, well, but there is value in seeing how the other cohort members react to your status updates, right? So now we actually opted for pre-recorded, but we're gonna play them while we're all on the live stream, and then like a 1 to 2 minute status update or intro video like tomorrow, and then up to 8 minutes per project, just feedback and Q&A and conversation. So less slide based like we had in the last 2 cohorts, and more visual. And I'm super curious to see how the videos are going to be, because we have, again, a bit of a mix on projects. Mm-hmm. With Ray and I guess Martin being already very much engulfed in their project and have a clear goal and a clear definition of what they're working on. And then Elliot, for example, his first week, actually, he opted to come up with what he wants to work on, right? So so that's going to be interesting.
Yes, that's cool.
I think it'll be nice to have the videos pre-recorded, because just in watching cohort 2, I don't know if anybody else watched all of them, but it's a little hard to follow when it just goes from person to person saying, okay, talk about your week, and they don't necessarily have sure, they filled out the slides, but they didn't think about exactly how they were going to explain all the things they did. So it's just kind of like a brain dump of everyone. So I think it'll be cool to see the more structured, pre-thought out videos.
Yeah, especially condensing it or having that time limit with a short a pitch, if you will, 1 to 2 minutes. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I think we'll see how this goes, right? And Ray, correct me if you think any different, but I think to Emmy's point here, what I'm kind of hoping for, tomorrow is going to be the introduction video anyway, so that has the who am I, what am I working on inherently in it. But then going forward over the next couple of weeks, I think it'd probably be good to start every video like that. I mean, you don't have to introduce yourself again, but it's this is what I'm working on. I was planning on doing this. What I did, here's the update, to kind of circumvent the feeling of, oh, wait a second, what was Ray's thing again? For the others, and hopefully what I'm kind of course hoping for is that we get more of a external following too, which we could have from the live stream, live comments and questions, right? Which that would be very, very interesting and hopefully very helpful for the individual participant.
Yeah, I kind of wonder how much you're going to find the value. Well, I mean, there's 2 kinds of value trying to create, right? There's value creating inside the cohort, which is going to be about the conversation. And then there's value trying to create for the audience, right? Sort of the broader learnings of it. And I wonder whether the raw video, as it's being done right now, kind of like this kind of very live stream, is not going to provide the same level of value for the outside audience it does on the inside. One exercise I actually did to help out with the challenge in another community was people were being asked to put together educational videos, right? Everyone's supposed to put together educational videos, supposed to be accessible, do transcript, whatever. And people were having a really hard time getting off the mark. So what I did was I put out a Calendly and just did Zoom meetings with 3 or 4 of them. And they talked about their topic. And then I went and hooked up with another member of the community who likes to edit video, right? He has Adobe Premiere, and he cut it right into the smaller video that would actually be useful. And don't get me wrong, it's not like super high quality production values because it's like Zoom artifacting and all that. But like being able to, it was a series 80/20, right? Getting their expertise, not requiring them to figure out how to cut or how to start or whatever, but just doing it through conversation. There's a rule that I read like 20 years ago, like the secret to reality TV is in the casting and the editing, right? So I'm wondering whether like this raw material of these conversations is that piece in the middle, is the raw material for the editing process, so that which is going to be valuable to the rest is going to be something that's a little bit more digested, requires that additional technical step. It's not obvious to me that it needs a lot because you already have the role, right? But the but I wonder whether if you, rather than saying we're trying to solve the problem of external value through the live stream, whether you get a big multiplier from saying let's cut it, which of course requires permission of the group, but particularly after you got like 5 of these or 3 of these cohorts, right? You have 15 different companies that have been doing various levels of effort. I think you might be able to make 2 or 3 really hot, really useful videos that both drive engagement and drive value for the community.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I did think about this actually over the last couple of weeks too. I totally agree. I think, so first of all, why I started it with the live stream is because low-hanging fruit. I don't have to record it. I don't have to upload it. It's just additional steps, right? Which, let's be honest, like scheduling itself, sometimes a little difficult, right? And just, kind of reminding everyone. And of course, that's my job, right? Like, obviously, I elected to do that, and I'm happy to do it. But if I would have to upload and, it's just an annoying step. So I figured just put it into YouTube. It's fine, right? It'll live there now. But I totally agree that I think from an audience perspective, cutting together even summaries of the individual projects, right? Like, so we have now cohort 1 and cohort 2, and I want to start exploring that. I'm not great at editing either. It doesn't come easy for me, so I'll have to get into it or find someone in the community who would want to help out and do that. Like, it would be nice to just, and I don't know how it comes out in the edit, right? I have no idea how that would look like, but it would be cool to see, here's Justin's journey, right? It's like in 60 seconds, beginning to end, this is what happened. I think where I started off with from a mindset perspective with this is, if this was a big community where people go to launch their startups or something, then it could become interesting to follow along and almost use it as a due diligence tool, right? As like a different way of getting insight into the companies. But we're way off of that, obviously. And again, I think it's a choice, right? If you find a particular cohort super interesting and there's like 3 projects you really like, you might want to watch all of them in live stream. But I agree, like especially for now, for the early days, there probably needs to be additional steps in editing and condensing.
You could also like take things from even the virtual coffee meeting, like Gary V style, and kind of splice it together. Like, this was something interesting we talked about, and use that as promotion for like, join us next time,
Yeah, it's a good point. And funny enough, like I try, like in these calls, in almost every call so far, I try to keep notes about what we talked about. Sometimes I tweet about it, right? But then you know how it goes, right? Like, the virtual coffee meeting's over, other things are coming up. It's kind of that rat race, but I do need to do that. And I'm hoping that we get the community just a little bit bigger quickly, that those people who enjoy editing will be there, right? Or to keep it on with this example.
Yeah, because what you are bringing to somebody who likes to do editing is role, right? Because somebody who likes to cut stuff together, the question is, what are they starting from? But if you're giving good material and have an idea of like where the value is in that material, that's much easier and more fun for them to work with. So I actually think you've got an asset to bring to the table to be finding some of those folks. And of course, you have a network of people who reasonably like you, to, either they might be able to help or they know someone or what have you that you can be sort of roping into the community. I think right now the coStarting community you have is like 24 members, which is bigger than the actual list of people in the cohort. So it's like you've already inviting like half a dozen or so more people than who are actually in the cohorts. Kind of wonder if you could be using that as a way to sort of bring more people into an entrepreneurial community to be able to help drive that bus.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm not really actively working on this, but I have been thinking about that too, right? Like what's the role of the broader community, and how do I see people getting value from it other than the people who are going through the cohort? Because ultimately that probably will be the minority. Or at least it'd be great if the community itself created additional more value for other entrepreneurs other than just the ones going through the cohort, right? As of now, I think since the focus is on the cohorts, I haven't really spent any time in trying to see if I can pull people in. Of course, on a one-on-one, like today I had a conversation with a local entrepreneur. He turned around and applied for the waitlist for the next cohort, right? But there is no clear path into the community without the cohort right now. So I can't expect anyone to join if there is no door. So I guess I need to build the door.
I kind of wonder whether the door might be be this. Right now, you're focusing on the cohort in the site, right? That's what's at the very top. And you got to scroll down a little bit to even find out these things exist. What if coStarting, instead of being a cohort-oriented enterprise, was a conversation-oriented enterprise? And then people who join the virtual coffee all get to come into the people who join can then be, that's the qualifier, right, for getting into the Slack.
Yeah.
I know another community literally called Virtual Coffee that does just that as a strategy. Really?
That's funny. No, so many trademark issues everywhere. Yes, I agree. I need to think about this. And the website is actually, I don't know, it's always a side thing in a way, but it shouldn't be, right? Like the website always gets just updated to what's currently going on from my perspective.
Do you roll your own, or do you use no code for that? What's your mechanism for making that work?
So right now it's a card website, because it's super easy, quick. I started coding it myself, but even that is just a little bit more work. It needs to become something very, very soon, which is more of a bit of a platform. I don't really want to call it a platform, but at least a portal, right? Where, like, for example, today I need to make the cohort 3 page. That information should just be ending there automatically and be rendered without me having to manually put it together after you guys submitted it, right? So, I mean, yeah, it's a trade-off. Like, do I build that to happen automatically, or do I do it manually for a couple more times? Right now, it's fine manually, but it's already annoying. You know what I mean?
Remember, there are 4 ways to improve productivity. 4 ways, right? There are 4 ways to improve productivity. You can, automate, which is what you're talking about right now. You can eliminate it, just decide not to do it all. You can delegate it, which might be the thing you're not thinking about yet in terms of finding someone else who can be doing it for you, might be interested in helping. And then liberate, which usually just means being able to do it from your phone. I think of those, the most relevant alternative to what you're talking about is saying you're looking at it from the point of view of you need to put in more engineering time to get a little bit of automation. I kind of wonder whether your next easiest path would be, do you have a friend? Is there somebody who's on this call right now who'd be interested in like helping you out with that for the next few, so that you get to really zero in on being the impresario, right? And really, there's a distinction here between being the impresario and being the organizer, and someone who'd be bringing more of the organizational talents and work to it, while you're focusing on making this thing bigger.
Yeah, that's a good point. Wink, wink. Anyone? Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, I can't ask Emmy. I don't know if this is clear. Sometimes it's probably not clear. Emmy's my wife, actually. So she has plenty to do with editing videos for our school bus build right now and stuff like that. So, and I know Justin's is kind of busy as well. But no, you're making a good point. And I think I actually do have a hard time asking for that kind of help, right? Like my natural tendency is because I am an engineer. I know I can automate it. So I automate it, right? But of course, it takes me 200 hours to automate it. And I think the next thing is usually, well, I could hire a VA, but then I need to spend money again for something which doesn't make money yet, right? But instead of doing that, just asking if anyone wants to help, I think makes sense. And I do have a hard time with that.
You might consider going down the road of the no-code communities like MakerPad or NCF, because these are people who are looking just to get experience and dirt under their fingernails, right, on no-code type projects. And if you're already talking about like doing it in card and trying to think smarter about it, I don't know for sure, but you might be able to attract some talent, right, who's interested in the very zone that you're talking about.
That's a good idea.
Justin, what do you do? I forgive me, I have not seen all the videos, so I'm not familiar with your projects, your line of work.
So I originally started this in the first cohort, originally to try to get back into software development and creating my own apps from many years ago when I used to do that, and then kind of just fell to the wayside. And ever since I first met Sven, now probably maybe 5 years ago, I met him actually at a tech or more so an entrepreneur tech meetup in Fort Myers when I lived there. And that kind of like reignited that passion, that I wanted to just do my own thing again, or just try, not even so much about from like a money aspect, but just wanted to go back into that great feeling of building something, releasing it, and seeing people use it and buy it. That was just always exciting to me. And it had been 15 years since I last did that. So ever since meeting him, it got me back into that. But even so, it still never got me to actually do it. So then fast forward 5 years, he called me up a couple of months ago and said, hey, I got this idea for this coStarting cohort, and one thing led to another. I decided to join. So I needed an idea, though. That's my problem is idea creation. I can't ever think of anything. I know Sven always says, too, ideas are a dime a dozen, but execution, obviously, is what people fall down on. I fall down on both of those aspects. But so I had an idea. A friend of mine said, he wants a simple way on his Mac to have a stock portfolio tracking, just to enter in the different shares that he owns, the account that they belong to, the amount of shares for each account. You'll look at a quick live total and do some basic calculations for the portfolio and for options trading as well. So I said, well, that sounds simple enough. My inexperienced trading mind said that sounds simple enough. And now 3 months later, I'm very close to finishing it up. But I kind of fall down sometimes just because of the fact that since it's not my idea, I'm not passionate about actually developing this. But it got me back on that track of learning desktop software development, and then actually hopefully here launching it now just days away. But in the midst of all this, for the last few months, came up with a couple of other ideas for things that I want to build, which is what I'm much more excited about. So I got a couple of those in the back burner that I'll be working on in the future. But I said I got to put those on hold, because the whole point of coStarting is to launch, and it's not very useful if I get 90% of the way there, then say, okay, throw that away and start something new. So just stick down, be diligent to actually, and be disciplined to finish the product and then move on to the next. But by day, I'm also a software developer and technical lead for a software development firm I work remotely for, been there 9 years. Just have a passion for technology in general.
You're doing contract work, or you're working, to start trying to figure out what the shape is of the type of work you're doing?
You mean for my day job, or?
Yeah, for the day job. Is like you're working for like an outsourced software development consultancy?
No, it's a full life cycle software development shop to where we develop, support, and maintain the products for our direct clients.
Got it. I understand.
And what about you?
Yeah, so I'm I guess a data scientist by training. I've been doing software startups for actually initially healthcare startups. Been doing startups one kind or another for about 20 years now. Had a pretty good, started 4 companies in succession from 1999 through 2005. The one I started in 2005 turned into an okay success, survived the economic crisis, and I finally discovered I need to put it down because I had stopped contributing equity value to it. Right, I was learning that I was there, I was working, but the company wasn't more valuable at the end of the year than it was at the beginning, at least not on account of my work. And I did an experiment, tried going, as a friend of mine advised, tried going on vacation. In my case, I just went to a conference, and see if it would just catch on fire, and it did not. So I've been doing some consulting, I've been doing some mentoring, and tried starting a legal tech company in 2018 with a partner. Had a great theory of the business, but the bet the company theory of the business was really our partnership. And my partner proceeded to have a massive midlife crisis and basically set himself on fire professionally. So I needed to move on from that. And finally figured out that I needed to do that in a more complete way. It actually, I think I spent 6 months mourning it in the first half of 2020, which of course was made more complicated by the pandemic and everything. So it's really in the second half of 2020 that I started turning my attention to figuring out what the next chapter needs to be. So I have a legacy company that's doing just fine, right? Business income. I've got, working on the consulting and the advising, and that's all going just fine. And I'm running 4 or 5 different experiments, of which phone to email, which is what I'm cohort for, is one, to test out different theories of market, right? To figure out what market is really ripe in 2021 in a way that it was not in 2018. Right? So what's changed? And on the theory, that's going to be where the big value is. It's really worth doubling down on. And sort of the idea behind the phone to email product, which is what I'm doing in the cohort, is it's a simple phone number that never will ring, so that people call it and they can leave a voicemail, and the voicemail gets transcribed well. They can send a text, and the text will not reach you until end of the day, end of the week, whenever you want it, so that people can be doing their work and they're not being interrupted, but they remain accessible because they're guaranteed to get the messages outside of that deep work window. Okay. And really what I'm trying to test with that is the thesis of how do people do remote work now, right? Because if you work in an office, it's actually much more interrupt driven. People come by your desk and they interrupt you. But if you are working remote, you don't have that, but you do have the problem of dings on your phone. So how can one be more productive is sort of the question I'm trying to answer and trying to help with that particular initiative. Okay. Long answer, short question.
Yeah, it's a very interesting idea there, and I'm excited to watch here in the coming month how that unfolds. And are you planning to actually start building that out yourself, or?
Yeah, well, I've been using it myself for the last several months, and I have a few friends who are on it. Really what I'm trying to do now is having an initial version that solves an initial thesis of what the problem is, right? Based on my work, based on a few people, trying to now go out and get one step removed, and generate customer conversations, like how do they handle deep work and how are they trying to manage their productivity notifications. And actually my metric for success for the cohort is scheduling and holding 15-minute conversations with people on that topic to be validating basically a customer value hypothesis, and sort of implicitly, if I'm finding people that way, putting some validation behind a customer growth hypothesis, right? Because otherwise you talk about these people who don't want to be found, right? So how do you market to people who don't want to be found? I think that becomes one of the challenging things about this, and one of the ways that this business really might not work. But if I can be scheduling the conversations, that would be some implicit evidence that they are findable, and that means that there's a path forward.
Okay. Yeah, very exciting. Yeah, like I said, looking forward to seeing how this pans out here in the few coming weeks.
We were talking about you too last week, I think, Ray, because Sven and I both use our phones kind of like what you described, because we get so many spam calls that we never answer the phone. We just wait until it goes to voicemail, and then we look at the transcription and then usually just delete it. So
anytime it's ringing and you just say to your phone, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, until it stops ringing, right? Yeah, so so that's a particular point. People actually use it because that's the majority of calls I get, spam calls, The quality stuff I get is frankly, comes mostly through Calendly, right? Like people who are scheduling up, people who want to have a real conversation with me, schedule one. People who are just looking to spam me or sell me on something, those are the ones who are trying to get me on the horn right away.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, and you can tell, right? If it's not important, there is no voicemail. At least that's my theory. And like, so I moved from Jersey, right? So I have a Jersey number. As soon as it's a 609, which is calling me, I know it's spam. Like 99.999% sure, right? Because that's how it's an old trick now already anyway, but that's how they try to make you feel like, oh, it's someone from around here. But that doesn't work if you moved, right?
Especially now that people's cell phones follow them instead of just following the location. Like your area code is an accident of where you happen to start, or where you were when you were 22 years old, no longer where you were when you were, unless of course you're a kid and you're getting earlier cell phones, which is freaking me out, but that's a different story.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I agree. It's interesting because when you sign up for like a Google voicemail or Google phone number or whatever, that you only have a couple of area codes to choose from, right? The first time I signed up, I'm like, well, shit, my area code is not here. But then I'm like, why do I care? Like, it's silly, right? Such an artificial like legacy indicator from back when it was an actual landline, right? Like, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's totally right. It does not matter much anymore. The only difference is like toll-free numbers look like something different, but I'm not even sure most people would recognize what a toll-free number looks like anymore, or care that much because you got to pay for the minutes either way. Crazy.
That's interesting. So,
but yeah, go on. Sorry.
No. Keep finishing the topic. I was going to throw another one into the mix here.
Well, the sort of the shift what I was getting at was this idea of what an idea is, and Justin, you're sort of talking about like sort of struggling with ideas, and there's an archive of Mark Andreessen's blog posts, right, that he did in the previous decade. I don't know if you've read any of those, but he talks about having 3 things that matter in a startup company for valuation purposes. And the 3 things are in increasing order of importance. So the least important, the technology. What's the product? If you have good, intellectual property, that's a good thing, but it gets dominated by the second thing, which is the team. It looks at the team, the jockeys. And people will always tell you the most important thing is our team. Engineers always tell you the most important things are technology. Managers and impresarios, people like Sven, will always say it's your team. And he says they are both wrong, because both those considerations, while positive, are dominated by a third consideration. What's the market? You're going a C team going against an A market, you will bet on every day of the week over an A team or an A product going against a C market. So it's a question of who's willing to pay, right? And what is the rising tide that goes along with that? And that's why I talk about like trying to validate theories of market, right? So rather than trying to have an idea about like a specific product or an interesting piece of technology or what have you, like where is there a pain point, right? A demand point that I think is on the rise or ripe for solving or whatever it turns out to be, as being the angle of like where the idea I think is most fruitful. Because then when you talk about like what you're shipping information that helps you understand that market. And that basically is what Eric Ries talks about, right? When he says minimum viable product. It's even like a survey can be doing that even more than an actual shipped piece of completed software that's useful. That said, though, I think going to desktop software, that is an underserved market and understood and sort of an awesome place to be. So congrats on that.
Yeah, thanks. I'm looking forward to seeing where it brings me.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think I call it the DAP triangle, right? Domain, audience, and product. And yes, you also in the end you need it all, but I agree with you. You need, and we teach this in entrepreneurship everywhere, right? Like, where's the product market fit, yada yada, what have you. There's a million words for it. And of course, we also always say the more niche, the better, in my opinion, in the beginning. Which, yeah, if you talk to BlackRock or something, you need to have that figured out already, right? Like you need to be at scale. But in the beginning, look at all of these indie makers on Twitter. They're selling to a handful of people, but they're selling, right? And then learn from how they are using it and make it better. And like you're not just gonna get bigger, right? Like your target market, your audience is gonna grow as the product grows, as you grow, because you learn and you find these auxiliary markets to it, right? So for your trading thing, like maybe it just does one thing, right? Like it lights up when the stock goes up or whatever. Stupid example, but if there is a very underserved market for that, great. If they're paying for it, fantastic. And then ask them, what else do you want?
Take it to the next level. How about focusing not on stocks, but on stonks?
I thought about renaming it to Stonkinator, actually.
Stonkinator. My microphone just told me I'm noisy because I snorted while I was laughing.
How dare you?
I think that's great. The intersect of finance is really sort of a really key zone. Anyway, sorry, you're about to say. I'll
No, I was just going to say, actually, I'm going to hop off here. It was great to meet you, Ray, and looking forward to watching tomorrow's kickoff meeting. What did you say? You already had the kickoff? So is this week 1 or no? Okay.
This is week 1. We had an intro just to find a date for everyone.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, yeah. So great to meet you, Ray, and best of luck. And I'll be watching tomorrow.
Cool. Pleasure meeting you, man.
All right. Likewise. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Dustin. Yeah, cool. The thing I was going to throw in earlier is really just a question. As we are starting a YouTube channel, again, I can't help myself, right? We have like 38 followers or something, and I'm starting to reach out to potential sponsors because of the companies I just like, right? And the projects I see coming up and the materials I need for it. I'm like, well, I mean, nothing to lose. I'm just going to shoot them an email. Of course, you never get a response with 38 followers. But that kind of triggered a thought in my head, and this probably exists, and I'm not aware of it. But it would be nice to have some sort of maker analytics or maker indicator type of platform or service which I can use to plug in my YouTube, my Instagram, my Facebook page, which then shows a breakdown of the reach of my creation, right? Meaning, so I wrote an email to Makita because that was the first product we sold on through Amazon affiliate, and I love Makita. I love the brand. I use it all day long, right, in these builds. So I'm like, well, all right, I'll write it to them. But it would have been nice if I could have actually not just linked my channel, which has 38 followers and a couple hundred watches on the videos, but also all of the posts I made all over the internet, primarily on Facebook groups where all of the people are hanging out for this type of topic, which why I'm doing this is, of course, driving traffic to the YouTube channel again. But it actually, the average post there generates about 5,000 impressions, right? And putting all of this in an email, I'm going to lose them. But it would be nice if there was like, here's Sven's, maker index or something. And here you can filter by where is the Makita brand, in which videos, in which posts. Something like that would be super cool in my opinion. Does anyone know of any like that?
Isn't that just a social media dashboard?
Yeah, but it should I think it would ideally cross-reference between platforms, right?
That's usually the job of the dedicated social media platforms like Sendable or later HubSpot does that. Of course, it's much more expensive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just thinking about it wrong.
Sprouts in this business, you get a mix up of these are also ones that are involved in scheduling, across multiple platforms as well, to be able to both make your social presence as well as be able to observe it. I'm not sure what it means in terms of shareability for clients, but this also seems like very much the kind of thing that agencies would want to do. I kind of wonder, in the same spirit of could you could you buy or use instead of having to go build yourself? Unless what you really want to do is build, which I totally get to.
Yes, I mean, personally, yes, I totally do. I mean, that's 90% of the fun of it is for me. I just want to create, right? And that's fine. Again, even 90% of all of the 90% of the things I do, they never make money, and they're just fun, right? Like Indie Buddy, for example, what I built a couple of weeks ago. It's just a challenge for myself. That's my hobby. But other than that, I think I almost looked at this one as like, there might be stuff like this out there, but it's a very specific use case, and it should be very simple, not to build, but it should be like the testimonial page I use, right? Testimonial.to is very, very simple to use, does one thing very well, and that's it, as of now anyway. And with this, I thought it should just be as simple as, here is a link to the dashboard specific to you, advertiser or brand, who I'm talking to right now. You don't have to go to Social Blade and look at all of what I'm doing, just keep it simple and make it simple for the creator too, where I shouldn't have to go, through HubSpot and create this snapshot for the specific advertiser, right? It should just be coming out of the context or annotated somehow. Like maybe there's Makita in the description of this video. That's the tag from Makita, right? Or you have a hashtag or something like that. Keep it super, super simple. But again, I don't really want to build this one, actually. Especially not because I don't know if there is a market for that. Like, I never interacted with brands for sponsorships. I don't know if that would be something they would react to, right? Which is, I guess, the biggest question here.
Right, you want to sort of solve it in two stages. The first one is whether, if you were to provide Makita or whoever else with like a useful, with a good email to describe the stuff, that it actually moves the needle sales wise. And then the second question is, could you do that at greater scale? But if you start by building, then what you're doing is you're solving the scale, essentially automating, which is to say trying to solve a scale problem before you're solving the, theory of value problem. Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's what people want to do. I mean, I remember I was advising this other guy about a video platform that he was interested in building. And my advice to him, and sort of what I was trying to guide him along to, was don't build the platform, start with the videos, right? Are they useful, right, for the particular use case that he was looking at? And the thing is, he discovered that he really hated making the videos. He eventually quit the project because he's like, well, what I wanted to do was get into this so I could build. And what became clear was what he was interested in was building, was getting to do some coding and build what he thought of as a product, which was to say a ship piece of technology, as opposed to building a company or a solution for real problems. Which not everybody wants to build a business,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's it. I do teeter-totter on that line myself, I think, because I love building, but I also like everything around it, which could make it into a business, right? And I'm most comfortable in the very early stages, like getting those first replies, right? Like getting that first interest. That's the most fun for me. Like just getting someone to acknowledge, like, interesting. All right, let's talk. Maybe they just spend 5 seconds looking, right? Like how do you get that? And then how do you get them from that first call to refer you to the colleague which is actually in charge of this stuff? Like that stuff is super, super fun. At least as of now, that's kind of where I feel like that's where I want to be. Hence the launch track, right? Hence working with all of you guys, where even with the company I just left, we're valued at a couple million, and we're raising a couple million, and it's super fun. There's a lot of cool stuff going on, but it's already getting to that level, which is still super small in the grand scheme of things, where the day-to-day changes drastically, right?
I think there's a big difference between going from 0 to 1, 1, 10, 10 to 100. And I think there are a number of founders who feel they've been ill-treated when the investor or board or whoever says, all right, well, you've done your job, but you're not the ideal person for the next job, because the next job is not the same as the first job. Whereas I think there's huge value if you can figure out what you're really good at and do that, and stop fighting for the jobs you're not really good at.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Some people are good all the way through, like my friend Drew, he was good all the way through, right? But I think that's the exception, not the norm. And a lot of businesses even just get taken down by management hanging on when they shouldn't be managing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think me and my former co-founder, we said that from the beginning. I think that's why we started working together. One of the reasons, because we shared that sentiment. It's like, okay, we are CEO and CTO right now. That could change next month, right? Mm-hmm. Like that doesn't mean we necessarily need to leave the company, but there might be someone better for the job at any given point in time. And we both kind of committed to each other that we said, it's like, hey, look, if either one of us is not the best man for the job anymore, then let's figure out who is, right? And that's actually what happened now. Well, I mean, different reasons why I stepped down, but like I think my successor, she's more qualified, right? She's better. She has more experience in the next stage of where this business is going. So it's in a way my fiduciary responsibility to make that move, right? And for me, it happens to line up with, kind of realigning with my other passions anyway. So perfect.
Yeah, that's really a good point. I mean, I think the word you use of job is really a key one, right? Are you looking to build what is your job, right? And the word entrepreneur means the one who starts. Doesn't mean finishes.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, I think we need to remind ourselves about that. Entrepreneurship's sexy now, right? Like everyone's an entrepreneur. And it's easy to be an entrepreneur today. But I think very few entrepreneurs make money, right? Many ideas die, and I think that's fine too. It's like just stick with what you like to do. I had a conversation with someone earlier, and it obviously we talk a lot about don't get too married to your ideas, but just figure out what you're passionate about. It sounds so cheesy, right? But like I think you can only stick with it for a little while. You don't have to stick with it forever. Totally agree with you, Ray. But you need to do it for a couple of years to see it through, to get to any money, I think, for any project, to any meaningful money beyond maybe a solopreneur. And that's going to be painful. Most likely it's going to be really painful. You're not going to go out a lot. You're not going to, you sacrifice something, right? Especially if you still have a full-time job while you're trying to build something.
Right. Napoleon Hill says right at the beginning of Think and Grow Rich, right? He says that what you should be telling yourself in the mirror are two things. The first is, what's your goal? And the second is, what are you willing to give up? And then go for the goal and give it up. It's a harsh bit of advice, but you're right. I mean, we can't have it all. We can have a lot, but we can't have it all. We get what's the expression? You can have anything, but you can't have everything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I talk to a lot of my friends all the time about this, where, we overlap in a lot of mindsets. For me, I am just lucky that I figured out that I don't need much in my life, which makes being an entrepreneur so much easier, right? If you don't have a fancy lifestyle you need to support, like, we talk about ramen profitability all the time. Like, that's your first step. If you really want to be an entrepreneur, and you need to give something up. For me, it's okay. I don't need a fancy house in a fancy neighborhood. I don't need to eat out 5 times a week, right? But I love what I'm doing. And I think we see a lot of this right now, the creator economy, the passion economy, right? Like there's a huge shift into this. I think the last year helped drive that even more. And I think I love it. I think people getting more towards doing the things they love is fantastic, and it's the first step. But we need to also take the romanticism out of it a little bit, because it's not going to be as fun every day, right? Like maybe what you're doing is, but if you can't pay your bills for a couple of months, then what do you do?
Right, which is, I mean, a little bit and the yet another company I'm helping out that I was talking on Monday, and what I'm trying to steer him towards is that he can do a lot more for his business and build actually a better business if he works on it part-time than if he works on it full-time. Because he is basically he's saying, no, it has to be full-time for all these things that don't actually drive equity value for his business, but he's justifying his full-time involvement, right? As opposed to what's the 80-20 for the business. That allows you then to be making a few bucks and paying the bills. And I think figuring out how to make sure that you don't, to your point, ramen profitability, but also not going broke.
But don't you think it's because of how we look at entrepreneurship on the societal level? Because everyone is like, well, are you full-time on this yet? Right? Well, come back when you're full-time and you're committed. That's bullshit, right? Like, why are you giving a shit about this? Like, let him show you what the value is he's creating. You shouldn't care how he does it, or she. I think it's just that, that Shark Tank effect, right? Like, we put entrepreneurships and starting businesses into this kind of weird stigma where there is these people who made it, right? These sharks, I don't know, the people we listen to, I guess. They have their own opinions, but who gives a shit about their opinion? They don't know. They're not working on your business. You need to know what makes the most impact, right? Like the 80-20, you mentioned it a couple of times now. Focus on that. Don't let yourself be blinded. I told the guy earlier, like, yes, everyone is going to tell you need a killer team, but maybe hiring a CTO is not the best thing right now. Maybe, like, in my opinion, a CTO title or a co-founder title, you don't get offered, you take it. You need to come in, you need to find someone who's as passionate about your project as you are, and they need to show, like, from day one that they want in no matter what. And that's a good co-founder. Then the team is good, right? But just because you have a CEO and a CTO and a COO on the cap table, that doesn't make a good team.
Nope, not necessarily. There's definitely more to it than that. Okay, I gotta hop. This has been a fun conversation. Emmy, it was a pleasure seeing you again, Sven, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Excellent. Thanks for joining, Ray. I think we're on time anyway. Bye, guys. I will end the stream.
Good.